That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
Hi guys, my name's Simeon Jackson, and I'm gonna start doing these videos about different things that come with being a professional and different experiences that I've had throughout my career, and things that I feel might help younger players coming through that might be struggling with certain aspects of the game. So this first video I want to speak about, or wanted to make, was just to talk about not playing. So throughout my career, I've had experiences with not playing for a substantial amount of time. I've been lucky. I haven't had any, injuries. I've been out for a long period of time, like a year or stuff like this. But injuries that have helped me out for a month, 2 months. And also when you're just not being selected. And I feel there's different ways to deal with that. I've had stages where you haven't been selected and there's a feeling of, you take it personal, because here you are, you're training every day, you just want to play, and for some reason on Saturday you don't get picked, whether it be for tactical reasons, whether it be for how you've been training, or whatever it may be. But that instant, that moment where you go in the team meeting and the team's being named and you don't hear your name and you get hit with that initial frustration, and it's like a shock. Usually, it's that first, a lot of things are happening in that moment, but you're in a team meeting, so you can't really express how you're feeling at that time. You have to internalize it, and it kind of sits with you for those few minutes until the meeting's over. Then you're out with the team, and you kind of have to deal with it really quickly. And it's tough. It is tough. And it sits with you for the rest of the weekend. Even initially, after the meeting, after you've heard you're not playing, and you go to the game and you're on the bench, it's still kind of messing with you, but you have to focus. You have to, get your mind right and be prepared for, when you do come off the bench or when you do play a part in the game. So what I want to get at is, how do you deal with that? And what's your tool? What's your what mechanism do you use to deal with that? So in my experience, and I had a lot of issues with my own thoughts to do with whether I was playing or not playing. So I'd go in the meeting, and let's say the team's been on a run, and I haven't been playing for, the last few weeks, and you kind of know it's coming. So you kind of, in your head, you're like, oh, I know I'm not playing, like, what the hell, da da da, and you start to build up the story in your head of why you're not playing, or, or the managers, whatever, and you start trying to blame and look for different things to make yourself feel better. But the story's going on in your head, and I had an experience where it was happening for a few weeks. Same thing, my story would come up, and then I'm angry, I'm frustrated, sometimes not being on the bench, and that's really tough when you're not even on the bench, because you have to kind of sit with it for the whole weekend. If you're on the bench, you kind of you have a chance to maybe come on and do something, and prove yourself. So I had an experience where I was in the meeting, the story was going in my head, and next thing I was starting. So I had to go back and retract that whole 5-10 minutes of the story that was coming in my head, or the build up from the morning of, ooh, am I playing, am I not playing? And I had to get rid of that, because it was time to focus now. I had to get in the zone. I had to make sure that, mentally I was right. And these are things that, you kind of teach yourself along the way, and you have to learn, because the game is you don't know what's gonna happen, and you never can predict how you're gonna be feeling, or how you're gonna deal with that. So, I remember as well, when I was much younger, when I was 18, 19, and I was just starting to come to the first team, and I would see my name on the squad list, buzzing, I'm in the squad. Um, but then you get to the ground, and then you're not even on the bench. And I used to be so upset. I used to, I used to cry sometimes. I was pissed. Uh, and at that time, it was because you did all these things to prepare. So, I ate right, made sure I went to bed on time, spent hours listening to music, getting in the zone, preparing. And then that massive come down of, like, it was all for nothing. I'm not even involved. And that was hard to take for the first, I think, like, almost the year and a half of just traveling to games, not being involved, and sometimes traveling really far. Um, but just learning that it was part and parcel, and that it was kind of, I was learning just being around the first team, and I had to deal with that. Um, so that was the first stage. The second stage was then going from, okay, getting in the team, playing week in, week out. When you're playing, you don't have to think about anything. Sometimes you might have an iffy game, good or bad game, and you think, oh, I might not be starting, but you train well, you've been doing well. You kind of cemented your place in the team, so to speak, which doesn't really exist, because anything can change at any time. But you've been playing week in, week out consistently, so you don't have to worry about that so much. But yeah, then if you go through a stage of, like I'm saying, when you're not actually playing, I think the best way to deal with that is recognizing that your mind is gonna come up with a story, and it's gonna tell you all this crap and you're gonna start thinking about, did I do something wrong? Am I not good enough? And all these things come in, and it's about recognizing in that moment, okay, that's just kind of my head going crazy right now. And then you have to kind of like, take a step back and just focus on what you can control. And what are the things you can control? How you train, your attitude towards training, how you're looking after yourself, in terms of eating, sleeping, doing everything that only you can control. And knowing that on the training pitch, you're at the level that you're supposed to be at. Because you can't control how the manager thinks, what the team he wants to play. You can't control none of that. All you can control is your training and the attitude that you approach it with. And that can be tough in itself. Coming in on a Monday after you haven't played on the weekend, and you're having to pretend like you're fine. And even in the dressing room when you're not playing, still finding that in yourself to wish the other teammates all the best and genuinely want everyone to do well. It's tough, man. You're taking yourself, taking the focus off yourself and focusing on the team, and coming in on the Monday and trying to have the right attitude, saying, look, all right, cool, forget what happened over the weekend. Monday, first day of the week, I'm going to train as best I can, and I'm going to make sure that I'm at the best level for myself. Because that's what it really comes down to. And I learned that after a long time of going through it, was that, and back to the story of when I actually was starting, when I didn't even know I was going to be starting. So because I was coming in on Monday mornings, training the best I could, still keeping myself at top form, waiting ready for my chance. When I did get the start or get the call up to come in to the game, I was ready, and that's what it's about. That's what being a professional is about, is making sure you're at your best levels all the time for when it does come up. If you look at goalkeepers are a prime example. When a main goalkeeper number one is playing, that's going to be him for most season. But the number two has to make sure he's ready all the time for that to be called upon. And for players, it's a bit different because there's a lot of positions up for grab, etc. But you have to have that mindset. You have to make sure you're always ready and find a way to deal with when those voices come in and when it gets tough. And I think it's a big part of the game, and it's a skill that when you learn how to deal with this in a positive way, in a good way, it becomes a bit easier. So yeah, that's my video on when you're not playing. I'm probably gonna break that down into other stuff later on, but I just wanted to give you a little taste of what it's like, and hopefully some of the stuff I've said is kind of helped help some people in how they handle it. So that's it. Ciao.